When Big Pharma and Big Tech, when DTE and Blue Cross come a knocking saying, you know what, this is our democracy and we're going to own it, from here on out, we can always point and say, no, this is the people's democracy and we will always own it. They think that you want to use my whole name against me. Mike, listen, man, if you can't say the name, it's Abdurrahman, keep the name out your damn mouth. I'll be happy to give you lessons.
The Democratic Party's civil war is far from over. While some establishment Democrats survived primaries last night, the socialists, the far left wing of the party, is still proving it can win, as candidates like Abdul El-Sayed just declared victory in the Michigan Democratic Senate primary. And some in the Democratic Party say that the shift has become impossible to ignore. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here's my co-host, Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Rosanna Scotto, Fox 5 New York anchor and host of The Underground Economy on Fox Nation, Caroline Downey, National Review columnist, and Bill Hemmer, co-anchor of America's Newsroom. The Democratic Party's infighting just got a lot more interesting as results of last night's primaries continue to come in. Last night's biggest ideological showdown, DSA-aligned Abdul El-Sayed has pulled off a narrow upset over establishment-backed Congresswoman Haley Stevens in Michigan's marquee Senate primary, setting up the November matchup against Republican candidate Mike Rogers. Now, El-Sayed spent his primary eve palling around with far-left political commentator Hassan Piker. This is the same man who said that America deserved 9/11. Meanwhile, establishment Democrats did score some victories, including Congressman Wesley Bell defeating socialist Cory Bush, in Missouri. But don't mistake that for the far left fading away. Squad member Rashida Tlaib easily secured another nomination. And even CNN's Van Jones acknowledges the alarming shift in the Democratic Party.
The revolution is being televised and podcast and streamed and elected tonight. There is a credibility gap that's opened up between the Democratic Party establishment and this insurgency. Why can you spend $60 million and get whooped like this? This movement says, I don't need donors, ads, I don't need consultants. I'm going right to the people with TikTok and grassroots. The Democratic Party is now Blockbuster. These kids are Netflix. We are selling CDs out the trunk. This is Napster becoming Spotify, and it's happening tonight.
Someone who actually knows a thing or two about the dangers of socialism, Venezuelan immigrant Daniel DiMartino faced off against a DSA member on the story.
Frances said a few months ago in one of the DSA meetings that my colleague Stu recorded that she thinks every president of the U.S. since its founding has been evil. Frances, what makes you think, and why should Americans believe that you and your teammates at the DSA are not evil? Are you guys special, unlike all our presidents?
I don't think that we're evil. I think that we're fighting for good. I think that we're fighting for working people to have things that they deserve.
So there is a trend of far-left candidates winning across the country. That's undeniable at this point. But, Bill, there's another trend. Let me read to you this line from Politico. Yet another sign that the insurgent left, like in Maine, perform best among wealthier and highly educated voters, while moderate Democrats still perform better in lower-income and less educated areas. It was also a sign of a break between two unsettled factions of the Democratic Party, black voters and the left. We've seen this across the country.
Yeah, very interesting, too, and good to be with all you ladies. We were up late last night just to see the final results come in 90 minutes ago. I think we've reached a point in definitely this midterm election has suddenly gotten very, very, very interesting, much more than it was before. What I sense right now is Democrats are starting to close ranks. Chuck Schumer just put out a statement in the last hour. I mean, he was asked about this yesterday, whether or not he would support him. And he said, we want the majority back. And that's his position. And now he's thrown out his support for El-Sayed. I think several of the Democrats have already done that. I think we'll continue to see that. What it reminded me a little bit, ladies, is 2015, 2016, Donald Trump emerges and they're running to every Republican politician in America saying, do you support him or not? And a lot of Republicans did, and some of them did not, because they did not like his personality. Some suggested he wasn't conservative enough also, but it was really a personality issue. I look at the issues that Sayed is supporting here now, and they align with Democratic primary voters. I will grant you that. Medicare for all, I think you get a lot of people in the state of Michigan who supported Bernie Sanders 10 years ago would support Medicare for all. Tax the rich, that's always been on the table. This ICE reform idea, I mean, it's somewhat new because of the crackdown on the Trump team during 2.0. Abolish the filibuster. I'm not sure if that's like on everyone's front burner, but okay, I'll give it to you. And then this whole idea about campaign finance reform, that has to do with outside money. And I just look at these issues, and the one thing I did not mention was no military aid to Israel. And this, I think, is the dividing line, whether it's like Chuck Schumer holding back his support for his campaign, or whether other Democrats and other, like Van Jones said, podcasters like Hassan Piker, who, by the way, is going to be stuck to this party like glue for a very long time now because of this victory this morning. So I think in a lot of ways it comes back to Israel. And I'm not quite sure how the Democratic Party manages that. Like the Republicans went through this 10 years ago, but I think fundamentally it was about personality, and it wasn't policy. And this time it is policy. And I think that's a distinction that needs to be made aware of. I've been holding on to this Fox poll for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, July 17th. Do you have a favorable opinion among Democrats of the DSA? 59% said yes. Socialism, 52% said yes. Do you have a favorable opinion of capitalism? Only 41% of Democrats agreed on that point. Likewise, Republicans were only at 61%. So I don't know what's moving out there, but it's something we need to take notice of. I think with regard to Sayed, I think he's already starting to make a pivot. I watched this interview he did this morning on MSNBC, and he said we need better schools and we need better roads. Well, that really wasn't a lot of what he was saying day to day. He was mentioning AIPAC in Israel just about every stop that he made. And then he talked about outside money earlier today. But he didn't mention AIPAC, and he didn't mention Israel specifically. So I just wonder if there's something happening there. With regard to Mike Rogers, he barely lost 2 years ago. He's declaring this a change election. He's blaming Democrats for the unaffordability in Michigan. Maybe it'll work. We will see. But right now, this is a very interesting race where the people in Michigan have a decision to make. Do they go with this center-right Republican, or do they go with this progressive, borderline socialist Democrat? And let's have at it. I mean, we studied the state for weeks for a reason, and we'll find out in just about 90 days which direction Michigan chooses.
I don't think, Harris, a socialist can win statewide. This is why Sayed is such a dangerous candidate, because he's rejected the socialist label. But we went through yesterday all the DSA events he's been at, the fundraiser he's headlined. He has DSA all over him, though he rejects the label.
Well, he was hanging out with Hassan Piker, like...
The day before.
Yeah, the day before that. I mean, I don't think that there is enough in his history unless you play it 24/7, side by side, all over every social media page, all over everything, that can compete with a win. I mean, you didn't stop him. Spent $70 million with corporations. He bragged about that. How much money was spent against him, basically to get him to beat the other Democrat on the ticket. Haley Stevens, who had already said, well, if he wins, I'm with him too. I mean, I think that Democrats are tired of losing, and they'll do anything. They'll drink the sand now in the desert if they have to, because they're so thirsty. So I think that this could be the next wave of the Mamdani. And quite frankly, he threw down race in all of this too. Learn how to pronounce my name, Mike Rogers? Where's he going with that?
Mamdani said the same thing.
Right? I mean, it's a playbook that they're calling from. And guys like Robert Wolf have come into, he's a contributor on this network at times, have come in. He told me personally, I came in to, talk to Mamdani. And that was months ago. So they are getting some coaching from some moderate Democrats. I don't know if Wolf has worked with El-Sayed. I called him several times last week. I'm still trying to connect with him. We need to talk about these things, because if that's what's happening, they're looking for their next Obama-type person. Now, remember, Obama got the cred for Deporter-in-Chief. But his vice president let millions of people in. You don't think that they were bipolar in that moment. No, they were in lockstep. He knew that he would do one step of the dance and Biden would do the next. Kamala couldn't get it done, so they didn't back her, really. But this is their next hope. They need somebody else to take the mantle, and it's got to be a generational change. No more of these people that are generationally not there. And that's the other thing that El-Sayed was kind of calling out subtext today. I mean, it wasn't about Bernie Sanders. It's about the future. It's about the young people in the audience. Look, he's articulating this. We can run all the tape of all the, like, racist and anti-Semitic and evil things. But at the heart of this is he won. Yeah. So how do you keep him from winning in November? And it's going to take more than just one Republican on a ticket and millions of dollars. You're going to have to put up a wall now with policies. You're going to have to attack affordability in a whole host of new ways. Republicans have the horses to run in this. They've got the majority. They need to start running.
Caroline, here's the problem. Democrats did fight El-Sayed with $70 million. Establishment Democrats did. But they lost. And to Harris's point, I do think they want power more than anything else. So I don't think you're going to see more John Fettermans and Henry Cuellers. You're going to see the embrace of a far left agenda because power is more important than ideological purity on the issue of capitalism, which makes our country great.
Truly. And the irony of Chuck Schumer saying, OK, I guess we'll adopt the Democratic Socialists for a survival strategy is that you're essentially ceasing to exist as the Democratic Party that we've known, that our grandfathers, that our fathers, our parents knew. And I know Chuck Schumer said right after El-Sayed won the primary, well, we're a big tent party. But a tent, by definition, has borders. And the borders of that party were that capitalism and the free market system were the only ones that were compatible with the United States of America since our inception. You have thrown out the baby with the bathwater. You are no longer recognizable as the same party. But I think looking towards the general election, to Bill's point, you know, Mike Rogers is a sensible, credible candidate. I think it's going to be a very contested race because at the end of the day, Michiganders might actually prefer someone who cares about the auto industry and the manufacturing sector more than AIPAC and Israel, which has been El-Sayed's primary preoccupation, and obsession, which has nothing to do with the daily struggles of Michiganders.
Yeah, that's why El-Sayed asked for 5 debates. He knows he needs those 5 debates. If you look at the polling, Mike Rogers is ahead by about 4 points now. He needs the debates.
But, you know, he's got his finger on the pulse, and the Democratic Party, sadly, is in flux right now. They have no direction. But the young people with the socialist movement, they are energized. They're energized by social media. It's a grassroots campaign. And, you know, the Democrats, the older Democrats, are going by the old playbook. It doesn't work anymore. You know, Bernie Sanders used to be an outsider. Nancy Pelosi put AOC in a corner. These people have juice now. They are running the party, and we're going to see change.
Yeah, 1.52 million people voted in that state for races in Michigan. That's historic. In the middle of summer.
Yeah, and it's worth noting the polling was very off. Nearly every poll had El-Sayed winning by double digits, and it nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people are asking, do the Democrats have a white liberal problem where they're not accurately polling voters of colors and those who rejected El-Sayed?
I think also that the methods for the polling themselves, you really have to look at, are they sending you a text message? They send you an email? How are you doing this? Is it an online poll? And look, there's a lot of money to be made in polling, right? And like Nate Silver was writing this up. El-Sayed was throwing out those numbers from his internal polling and gave people the impression that he was going to win by in a walk. And I mean, barely nudged out, right?
Didn't happen.
I mean, the third candidate took 4% of the vote. But as you said, Harris, he won onward.
It was a nail-biter, not a double-digit victory, but a win is a win.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.